Bullies burned her house down, then discovered her quiet friend's powerful family. An inspiring story by Heartfelt Tales. The acrid smell of smoke still hung heavy in the morning air as Sarah Chen stood motionless, staring at the charred remains of what had been her childhood home just 12 hours earlier. The old farmhouse, with its wraparound porch and grandmother's rose garden, had been reduced to blackened timber and ash. Everything she had left of her parents, every memory woven into those weathered walls, was gone. Her hands trembled as she clutched the threatening note that had been nailed to the old oak tree in her front yard. The words, scrawled in angry red letters, made her stomach turn. "Go back where you came from. This is our town." Below it, crude drawings and slurs that made her want to disappear into the earth itself. Sarah had always been the quiet one, the girl who preferred her books to parties, who found peace in tending to her small organic farm rather than navigating the social complexities of Millbrook. She'd inherited the property from her adoptive parents, the only family she'd ever known, and had spent the last 3 years trying to make it profitable while working part-time at the local library. She kept to herself, minded her own business, and never imagined that her Asian features would make her a target in the small Missouri town she'd called home for over 2 decades. The trouble had started 6 months ago when she'd politely declined to sell her land to a development company. The company had big plans to build a shopping complex, and her 40 acres sat right in the middle of their proposed site. When she refused their increasingly aggressive offers, whispers began circulating through town. Suddenly, the girl who had grown up going to church potlucks and volunteering at the animal shelter was being called an outsider, a foreigner who didn't understand American values. The harassment had escalated slowly. First, it was just cold stares at the grocery store and conversations that stopped when she walked by. Then came the vandalism, broken greenhouse windows, trampled vegetable gardens, and graffiti sprayed across her barn. Last week, someone had poisoned 3 of her chickens. She'd reported each incident to Sheriff Morrison, but he just shrugged and suggested she try to fit in better. Now, as she watched the fire department's last truck pull away, Sarah felt more alone than ever. She had nowhere to go, no family to call, and barely enough savings to last a month. The insurance adjuster had already told her it would be weeks before she'd see any money, if at all. Arson was suspected, but without witnesses or evidence, there was little hope of catching the perpetrators. "Sarah," a gentle voice called from behind her. She turned to see Marcus Rodriguez approaching, his face etched with concern. Marcus was relatively new to Millbrook, having moved there just 2 years ago after marrying Emily Watson, one of Sarah's former classmates. He was quiet like Sarah, working as a freelance web developer from home, and they'd struck up a friendship at the library where he often worked when his internet was spotty. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Emily and I saw the flames from our place. We called the fire department, but..." He gestured helplessly at the destruction. Sarah nodded, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. "Listen," Marcus continued, "you can't stay here tonight. Emily's already making up the guest room. We won't take no for an answer." For the first time since discovering the fire, Sarah felt tears threatening to spill. "I don't want to bring trouble to your family, Marcus. Whoever did this, they're not going to stop." Marcus's expression hardened slightly. "Let me worry about that. Right now, you need somewhere safe to stay and people who care about you nearby." That evening, sitting in Emily and Marcus's cozy living room with a cup of tea warming her hands, Sarah finally broke down. The whole story came pouring out, the harassment, the threats, the feeling of being utterly alone in the place she'd always considered home. Emily, a kindergarten teacher with a fierce protective streak, was furious. "This is not the Millbrook I grew up in," she declared. "My grandmother would be rolling in her grave if she knew people were treating you this way." Marcus listened quietly, his jaw tightening with each detail Sarah shared. When she finished, he excused himself to make a phone call, speaking in rapid Spanish to someone on the other end. "My family," he explained when he returned. "I told them what happened. Sarah felt a flutter of anxiety. "Marcus, I appreciate everything you're doing, but I don't want to drag more people into this mess. These guys, whoever they are, they're dangerous." Marcus sat down across from her, his dark eyes serious. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you about my family. Something I don't usually share because I prefer people to know me for who I am, not where I come from." He took a deep breath. "My father is Judge Antonio Rodriguez of the Missouri Court of Appeals. My uncle Miguel is the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri. My cousin Elena just finished her first term as a state representative. And my brother David runs the largest civil rights law firm in St. Louis." Sarah stared at him in shock. Marcus, with his quiet demeanor and modest lifestyle, had never given any indication of coming from such an influential family. "I moved here because I wanted a simple life," he continued. "I was tired of the political world, the constant spotlight. Emily and I just wanted to start fresh somewhere peaceful. But seeing what's happening to you, knowing that there are people in this town who think they can terrorize someone because they're different." His voice trailed off, but his meaning was clear. The next morning, Marcus made another phone call. Within hours, a convoy of black SUVs rolled into Millbrook's quiet Main Street. Sarah watched from Emily's window as men and women in sharp suits emerged, carrying briefcases and wearing expressions of grim determination. By noon, the FBI had set up a temporary command center in the town hall. Federal agents were conducting interviews, examining evidence, and making it very clear that Sarah's case was now a priority. Sheriff Morrison, who had been so dismissive before, suddenly found himself answering very uncomfortable questions about his department's handling of the harassment complaints. The breakthrough came sooner than anyone expected. Security cameras from the gas station on the edge of town had captured footage of the truck used in the arson. Cross-referencing the license plate led agents to Brad Hutchins, a local contractor who had been one of the most vocal supporters of the development project. Under questioning, Brad quickly gave up his accomplices, including 2 members of the town council who had been secretly pressuring residents to make Sarah's life miserable. The conspiracy was bigger than anyone had imagined, involving bribery, intimidation, and a coordinated campaign to force Sarah off her land. The arrest sent shockwaves through Millbrook. As the full scope of the conspiracy became public, many residents were horrified to learn what had been done in their name. Pastor Williams from the Methodist Church organized a community meeting to address the situation. "This is not who we are," he declared to the packed sanctuary. "We are better than this. We are a community that welcomes everyone, regardless of where they come from or what they look like." The response was overwhelming. Donations poured in to help Sarah rebuild her home. Local contractors volunteered their time and materials. The high school students organized fundraisers. Even some of those who had initially supported the development project came forward to apologize and offer their help. Sarah was moved to tears by the outpouring of support, but it was the letter from Mrs. Henderson, her elderly neighbor, that touched her most deeply. "Dear Sarah," it read, "I'm ashamed that I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. Your parents were good people who raised a wonderful daughter. This is your home, and we should have made sure you always felt welcome here. Please forgive an old woman's cowardice." The rebuilding process took months, but it became a community effort that brought Millbrook together in ways no one had anticipated. Sarah's new home was bigger and more beautiful than the original, but more importantly, it stood as a symbol of what could be accomplished when people chose unity over division. Marcus's Family Foundation provided additional support, establishing a civil rights education program in the local schools and funding diversity training for law enforcement. The development company, facing federal civil rights charges, abandoned their plans for the shopping complex. On the day Sarah moved into her rebuilt home, the entire town seemed to show up for the celebration. There were food trucks, live music, and children playing in the yard where her house had once burned. Marcus gave a short speech, his usually quiet voice carrying across the crowd. "What happened to Sarah was wrong," he said. "But what happened afterward, the way this community came together to right that wrong, that's the true spirit of Millbrook. That's the America we can be when we choose love over fear, unity over division. Sarah, standing on her new front porch surrounded by friends and neighbors, felt a sense of belonging she'd never experienced before. The quiet farm girl who had once felt like an outsider was now at the center of a community that had not only accepted her but fought for her right to belong. The rose garden was already showing signs of new growth, planted with starts donated from gardens all over town. It would be different from her grandmother's original garden, but it would be beautiful in its own way, a testament to the power of community, the importance of standing up for what's right, and the truth that home isn't just a place, but the people who choose to stand with you when darkness falls. As the sun set over Millbrook that evening, painting the sky in shades of hope and renewal, Sarah knew that she had found something more valuable than the land she'd fought to keep. She had found a community willing to grow and change, and in doing so, they had all discovered the true meaning of home.